When we left our heroes on Atlantis, they were debating whether or not sitting in the corner hugging their knees to their chests was the way to handle this predicament. That's because 3 Wraith ships with full escort are on their way towards Atlantis, with no means to stop them from taking it short of blowing it up, which doesn't sound good as far as defensive strategies go. But since Atlantis is the only means of getting to the Milky Way galaxy and the rich feeding ground of humans there, it might be the best plan, sad as that sounds. We're working on a better plan than Operation We've Discovered Atlantis, Get the Nuke. There's still one of the ancient defense platforms in space still. It doesn't work, but they think they might have figured out how to duct tape it together enough to at least handle this invasion. As Rodney points out, the ancients had the Wraith beat in terms of technology, but the Wraith had Zap Brannigan level of reserves that allowed them to win the war, or at the very least, make evolving into pure energy seem like a bit more fun. Meanwhile, there's another complication. Teyla, it seems, has some Wraith DNA in her, and I don't mean in the X-rated kind of way. I mean enough to explain why she can sense their presence, and even worse, so much so that she's in the infirmary after a recent episode. So we have some uncomfortable tension with putting her back on duty, but not so much as when Zelenka tries to convince Rodney that, given his knowledge of the city, it would be better if he stayed here and let Zelenka go and take the risk.
Sorry, no, you can't take it back because you've just admitted that I'm smarter than you are.
I admitted no such thing.
Oh, it's hard for you to say, but the truth shone through when you were compelled to speak.
You are a miserable little
Yeah. Let's not ruin the moment here, huh?
Igor would ask Zelenka, why you let him treat you like that, man? Since the backup plan for this is destroying Atlantis, they're going to need a planet to retreat to, but that's when Teyla's condition is the issue. Bates points out that it means Teyla could unwittingly compromise the location of the Alpha Site if she knows what it is. And as much as Bates is generally a tool, he admittedly has a point here. The stakes in this are the entire expedition. Is it worth gambling on that just to avoid hurting Teyla's feelings? I put everyone here at risk, sure, but the alternative was a socially awkward conversation, and who wants that? It gets really awkward, though, when the team pulls back early and Bates is certain that Teyla tipped off the Wraith unintentionally. Only unless the Wraith saw Jurassic Park, they probably didn't drop the T-Rex on the team that nearly ate them, making their most likely Alpha Site another bust. The good news continues. Zelenka's put together a simulation of the destruction of Atlantis, just in case anyone doesn't want to stick around and actually watch it happen. And it turns out that our last resort might not work. There could be enough of the city left for the Wraith to learn how to build an intergalactic engine and come to Earth anyway. So, we have nowhere to go, but on the plus side, at least blowing up the city will fail anyway. And if you can't even reach the only 2 bullet points for the easiest scenario, winning this battle is looking stupidly impossible. So it'll come down to Rodney, Grodin, and a red shirt pilot. Yes, he's actually wearing a red shirt. Poor dope. Rodney has to slip inside a space suit to climb in there while tugging a Naquita generator. Basically an entire nuclear reactor that you can fit into an oversized backpack. So a fun thing to have floating lazily around in 0G while you're already scared shitless. Meanwhile, tensions are getting out of hand back in the city. Teyla confronts Bates over his suggestion the Wraith might use her, leading to her punching him in the face. Then Howling, the guy whose kid went missing at hide-and-seek, politely confronts Weir over the idea of blowing up Atlantis, that the ancestors will ensure that it doesn't fall into the hands of the Wraith. Weir says that she doesn't believe the ancients have done any more for Atlantis than they already have. There's a time travel thing that backs up that, but let's not make this any more weirder by bringing causality into it. Anyway, let's see how things have improved around here. Now if we destroy the city, it will slow the Wraith down a little bit. We have nowhere to go, and even if we somehow did manage to go somewhere, we have offended the humans of the entire Pegasus galaxy by destroying the ancestors' greatest accomplishment. Roughly speaking, this plan is on par with asking Israel to fire the city of Mecca into space at an incoming asteroid. It won't do much to help, but it will succeed in pissing a lot of people off. To at least help with making this less bad, Zelenka will be wiping the Ancients' database with a computer virus, on the assumption that they can travel between galaxies and ascend to a higher plane of existence, but never installed Norton. If only there was a good metaphor for this entire operation. That'll work. So Bates is soon discovered near a Naquita generator, beaten so badly that he's put into a medically induced coma until he's well enough. And thanks to the fight with Taylor and the resistance to blowing up Atlantis, the floor is open for whether it was her continuing their fight from before, someone trying to sabotage the self-destruct and Bates stopping them, or the way things are going around here. Hell, Bates kicking his own ass to get Taylor in trouble. I wouldn't put anything past anybody at this point. There's also the possibility that Taylor was taken over by the Wraith. She insists that she wasn't, but her alibi was she was alone in her room, with no one to see her, playing solitaire, picking her nose, farting loudly, peeing with the door open. Point is, it's a pretty lousy alibi and definitely not reassuring that she didn't wraith out and kick someone's ass. While all that's been going on, Rodney and Grodin have been working to save the day. McKay got most things running, and as you saw, Grodin got the gravity on, but the buffer that powers the weapon isn't connecting its power to the weapon, and the circuits to sort that out are located outside, meaning someone has to do a dangerous EVA to fix them while someone else gets to stay nice and safe in the station. And Rodney draws the short straw, so he gets to go out there where there's nothing to hold on to and try to repair something that broke before farming seemed like a good idea. Maybe if he's lucky, there'll be a meteor shower. Speaking of terrible luck, we found out who the assailant is, a Wraith, probably the one that first discovered the city and then blew up his ship. He probably came across Bates while sabotaging the power supply, or he could just hate him as much as everybody else does. His presence also explains why Taylor's feeling the Wraith touch so much lately. It's from living near one who's sharing its thoughts, blasting its stereos all hours of the night, and won't shut its damn dog up. Now, they do have sensors that can detect non-humans, but its heavy power use has kept it confined to the gate room. But now that they know, Zelenka uses it to cover the whole city, and that's pretty helpful. I mean, it is a city. Finding a Wraith here otherwise would be like finding the one person in Manhattan who wears overalls to work. Well, with that tech advantage, we've got this guy dead to rights. It was our game to lose, Shep. Our game to lose. Luckily, the others heard what happened and rescued Shepard before his life force is sucked away by the Wraith. Unluckily, the problem with the station that Rodney fixed, well, the fix was accomplished by cutting power to the docking system, meaning Grodin's stuck in there now. The only option is to wait for the Wraith to arrive, hopefully get blown to bits, and then rescue him afterwards. If it doesn't blow them up, well, being stuck in there is the least of his problems. Grodin figures, well, if he is locked in there, he might as well power down until the Wraith show up and then catch them by surprise. And sure enough, the first one to arrive is taken out with one shot from the Blasto-Blaster. But it seems the circuit that controls the door wasn't meant to handle enough power to rip the heavens asunder, so it fries out. There's not going to be a second shot. The Wraith take advantage of this by annihilating the station. Meanwhile, they have the Wraith, whom Shepard has named Bob, as their prisoner, but there's no way to know what he might have told the rest of the Hive. Taylor figures she'll just use the Wraith connection, enter his mind, find out what he's done, and Bob's your uncle. But Bob's the creepy uncle, so she starts to spasm, and Shepard responds appropriately to a psychic attack. He shoots Bob. He still refuses to talk, and the good news keeps coming. Rodney reports about Grodin's death, and that there are 2 more ships still coming, and the satellite's gone forever now. So Weir will have to give a speech before they evacuate.
I wish I could tell you all that this is a fight that we will win, but I can't do that.
I wish I could tell you that we will find a safe harbor when we leave here. I can't promise you that either.
I'd like to tell you we have a plan to ensure our survival, but I gave it to Grodin to hold on to while he corrected the punctuation, so that's gone. This mission sucks! I'd like to tell you that the cook doesn't blow her nose into the cream of mushroom soup, but let's just say there's a reason I always take the salad. Yeah, things are just bad all around.
We will find you. Just as surely as we will find Earth.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
And when we do, we will feast.
Seems my gun didn't find that a convincing argument, Bob. The siege is off to a good start with this chapter. It's almost all to set up how dire things are, while still maintaining activity. The scope of this is impressed on us. For instance, that all the vast knowledge of the ancients that they had come here to collect is going to have to be destroyed. They might be able to save 9% if they're really, really lucky. And the EVA scenes are quite effective looking. This takes up a lot of activity, and that's why this review is quite short. It's a lot of tech talk and such, but the way they handle it, it doesn't get bogged down at all. Things push forward without racing, but without stopping, and lead us inevitably to the reality of the threat that they face, and the unreliability of any way to deal with it, including just running away. We'll see how things go in our next outing of Atlantis on Wednesday.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's permanent back damage.